Hey, welcome, and I hope you're doing well this Friday. And today I want to talk to you about often what you might hear people say when they're talking about relationships or the people around them, it being you can't change your partner. But what does this actually mean? So today I want to talk about what it means, why we fear that if this is true, why do we fear this, and what we can do instead. So, hi, and welcome back if you are a return visitor, and welcome if you are new. I am Mariette West. I am a relationship coach who helps women take their relationship from unfulfilling to satisfying and happy. So, thank you for joining me here at Growing in Love. This is the place where I will work hard at supporting you in nurturing and taking care of your relationship in your love, just like you would a garden. So, just like in your garden, we need to make sure we water, we have to have the right setting, you need to have sun or shade or whatever it might be. That's the same in our relationship. So, we need to be able to nurture it if we want to create the kind of result that we want. And the second part of growing your love is to help you grow individually through the relationship triggers that or challenges that might surface. So my role here is to help you growing comma brackets in love. So those two different parts. So when I talk to my clients and anyone else really, everyone agrees that you can't control anyone but yourself. You can't change anyone else but yourself. Um, Yet my clients then often go into their ways of attempting to change their partner, believing if their partner would just change, then things would be better. Their relationship would be more successful. They'll feel more satisfied. And it can look in a few different ways. So let me go over the three common different ways that it can be. So number one way is that you go into what's called the rescuer. So you want them to feel better about themselves, for example, and if they felt better about themselves, then the relationship would be better. You'd have more fun. So you go into pumping them up as much as you possibly can, trying to make them feel better about themselves. Or you keep buying them books or sharing articles or whatever it might be that you think that would help them to change something that you think that they need to change. Um, and what happens here is that you continue to give them all these things, hoping that they're going to change, and yet they don't listen or read the things that you want them to. So that's being the rescuer in your attempts to change somebody. You can also go into what's called the villain. So from the villain role in relationships, we tend to do things like threaten to leave our partner if they won't get the help you think that they need so the relationship's better. You want them to, you might book in couples counseling in the hopes that finally they'll be forced to listen to someone else say what you've been saying all along, that they need to change, that they need to do better, they need to try harder, they need to stop doing what they should stop doing and start doing what they need to start doing, and so on and so on. So we begin to put them in positions that is kind of forcing them, powering over them so that they will change, getting someone else involved or threatening to leave them, or things even like calling them names or shaming them. So if you think your partner is overeating or not exercising enough or drinking too much or working too much or whatever the thing might be, you shame them or guilt them or make them feel bad every time you see it, them doing that. And you roll your eyes or you make some sort of motion that shows that you're disappointed in them, that what they're doing is not good enough and they need to change. The third way we can attempt to control somebody is through the victim mindset. And this is where we point fingers at our partner, um, blaming them for us not feeling how we want to feel. So we are making them going to, guilting them, making them feel bad because they aren't doing enough to make us feel better. Everything's wrong. We don't have what we want. It's out of our control. We couldn't change it even if we wanted to, because they need to do something, and we can't do it ourselves. So this is the victim mindset, and needing our partner to step up because we are believing that we can't do it ourselves. So from these three different places, this is what it can look like to be attempting to change your partner. Now, the way I like to talk about it is with my clients is using the formula, the relationship formula, you plus me equals us. So the you in this formula is your partner, the me is yourself, and the us is your relationship. So most of us tend to focus on the you, so our partners. And when we want the us to look different, we believe the only thing that we can do to really make that us feel better is to change our partner. Meanwhile, completely forgetting that the only thing that can actually create change for ourselves is our own change of behaviors, feelings, actions, beliefs, and so on. That's for us to do. And then, and if you the way Byron Katie talks about it, Byron Katie talks about three kinds of business. She talks about your partners or somebody else's, your own, or nature or God or the universe or whatever it is, something outside of us that we can't control. So she says how the only thing that we can control is ourselves. So within the formula, you plus me equals us, when we are focusing on the you, we are not going to get the result that we want. Or even if there is change that happens, there's often resentment, or it doesn't last, or it creates a deeper disconnection. So we want to really realize when we are trying to change someone else, we have abandoned ourselves. We have given up our power to the person that we're trying to change. And we're relying on them to give us what we were hoping they were going to give us what we actually want. And this will never actually get you what you do want. So, so that's number one. What it actually means is that you are giving up your power and you are relying, really all of us are being a victim when we are believing we can't create the change that we want and we have to go through something else to actually feel better. Even though we might call it changing them so that they're better off or they're happier or they're more successful or they're whatever. Ultimately, we are wanting someone else to change so that we feel more fulfilled. Okay, so number two, why are we so afraid for this actually to be true, that we can't change anyone else but ourselves? So one of the big things is if we believe we can't change our partner, we believe we are going to be stuck with an unfulfilling relationship. So we really do believe that the only way that we can be happy is if something outside of ourselves changes. And we can't fathom the idea of this other person in our relationships not changing because we don't want it to continue the way it has been. Unless, of course, you choose to leave the person that you're with. And that's something that doesn't feel good either. So staying doesn't feel good and leaving doesn't feel good. And you feel like your only option is to control and change somebody else. If only it worked, but it doesn't. And what's deeper underneath all of this is that when we yearn, when we want the love from somebody else, or we want somebody else to be giving us something that we don't have, it is actually our own yearning to finally make ourselves worthy of our own love. So this is quite a deep understanding, is that when we want somebody else to give us something, it's actually our yearning for us to give it to ourselves and to feel the worthiness in our own being. And nobody can create that. Even if somebody does do things to make you feel something, ultimately you still won't feel it at your core. And ultimately, this is what we are needing, attempting to change others to feel in ourselves, in our own core. So the only way we can get there is to go in and have a look at what it is that we are wanting to change for ourselves. Okay, and then the third piece here is, what do we do instead? So there's a few steps here I want you to remember and to give it a try. So number one, notice when you are needing your partner to change. Have a look at, the thing that set you off, and then what do you do to actually try to change your partner? Does it look like a villain? Does it look like a rescuer? Or does it look like a victim? So starting to get conscious and aware of the way you're showing up in your relationship. This is such an important piece that we often don't give enough value to. This is what my whole Get Conscious membership is about, is how to really connect to yourself and to kind of flip on the lights and have a look what's actually going on, looking at your truth. So once you've had a look at this and you're noticing that you need your partner to change, you notice that this is what you've been doing, how you've been acting, whether it's a villain, rescuer, or victim, you pay attention to that, and then give yourself a ton of compassion, because this is learned. We have learned this from young age onward to dive into the drama triangle, which is what these three roles is all about. So we have learned this from childhood, from friendships, from any kind of relationship we've ever been in. As a way, we've learned from the people who've done it to us, and then we've just carried this on. So we have to give ourselves compassion in that we are just attempting to feel better by trying to change the people around us to give us what we need instead of meeting our own needs. The other reason that we are really what we want to do when we're doing our own work instead of trying to change someone else, is the reason why we don't do that is that we often are avoiding the work, or we don't know how to do this. And we often are trying to avoid the emotions that come up when we really take a look at ourselves and realize that we're unfulfilled, or we're unhappy, or we are stuck, or we don't know what to do, and that we are the only ones to change that. It doesn't feel very comfortable. So it's much easier in our minds to focus on somebody else because it doesn't hurt as much. But the reality is we need to get uncomfortable. We need to really have a look at what's going on in order to ultimately change it so that we can have what we want as a result. So when you focus on yourself, that's where the real power of change happens. And as a result, because you change the me in the relationship formula, you plus me equals us, when you change the me, the us or the relationship also changes. So whenever you are, if you look at a math formula, 1 plus 1 equals 2. If the 1 stays the same, but you change the second one to a 2, the result is going to be different. You don't have to change both numbers. You only have to change one number in order to change the result. So we often tend to focus on changing only our partner's number, who they are, rather than what is actually possible, which is changing ourselves. So as soon as we change ourselves, the relationship will change for sure. There's no way it can't. Now, the other interesting thing is that often when we change the way we show up, when we work on fulfilling ourselves, when we work on being aware of our emotions, when we work on seeing what's getting in our way, when we do all the things that we have to do, we also bring different energy to the relationship. And as a result, our partner will often change as well, because when you change a dance, right, and you start dancing differently, yes, the dance is going to look differently, the us is going to look different, but the other person will often shift and change in reaction to what's happening with you. So this way, they are actually usually going to make a change because they're choosing to make a change because it is fitting the situation better. They're feeling not so pressured and forced and controlled and not enough or whatever they're feeling, so that they then have the space to begin to feel better, to do what they need to do for themselves, and they ultimately make the choice themselves to do things differently as well. So just having a look here. So when we are thinking about this idea that you can't change anyone else, these are the three things that I want you to think about. Changing someone else looks like being a villain, a victim, or a rescuer. It relies on changing someone outside of you to feel better, but it doesn't work. So as long as we're staying in that drama triangle and in other people's business and not in our own, we are not going to get that fulfillment that we are all after, whether it's in our relationship, in ourselves, in how we want to feel. So that's number one. Number two was this fear that we can't change other people, which means that we can't be happy in our relationship, is misguided. And uh, we can have the result we want by focusing on ourselves, and it may often change our partner as well in the way that will work for them, not for how we think, but exactly the way they need to move forward in their own lives. And it will change the relationship depending on how you change your part in the relationship. Um, and then the third part here is that what do you do instead? So instead of you need to go inward, you need to do your own inner work and find out what it is that isn't working for you, what's unfulfilling for you, what in your own being is ready for growth and change. So this is where you can start making the changes on yourself. You can get aware, get conscious, have a look at what you actually are wanting, and how can you begin to meet that need yourself or request help from others around you, who may want to help you. They don't have to, right? We really need to understand that. But there are lots of different ways we can be clear about that we're stuck. We need some support. This is something I want to work out for me. When we stop blaming outward, then our partners often want to support us, just like we want to support them. So this allows us to really begin to find the happiness and the joy and the fulfillment that we are after without relying on somebody else. Okay, so if this sounds really difficult, it actually isn't, but it is one of those things where when we don't really know how to move forward and how to make these changes, especially when they are patterns, when we've been doing this forever, which is what most of us have been doing by going into the drama triangle, then reach out. You can book a free love breakthrough session where I will help you uncover what's in your way, and then help you with the number one thing to start moving forward. So you can find the link to book in this free session in the description. And if you like this material, if you want more of it, tell me what you are interested. Any feedback is awesome. Any questions, make sure you put in the comments and I will be sure to answer them for you. And make sure you subscribe and like this video. All right, until next Friday, have a great week. We'll talk to you then. Bye for now.